One storage tub, 5 minutes to set up. 72 hours later, you have twice as much fish feed as you started with. No soil, no weeding, no waiting months for harvest. NASA tested it for feeding astronauts. Vietnamese farmers have grown it for over 1,000 years. They call it the nitrogen fern. Two things explain why almost nobody in the West grows it. One involves a hidden partnership inside each tiny leaf. The other involves what the fertilizer industry never wanted you to know. If you have ever wondered why growing your own fish feed feels impossible while feed companies raise prices every year, you are about to discover something that changes everything. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever seen tiny green ferns floating on rice paddies or quiet ponds in your area? I think the answers will surprise you. And if you are new here, hit that subscribe button so you do not miss what comes next. For centuries in the Mekong Delta of Vietnam, rice farmers noticed something strange. In certain paddies, the rice grew taller, the stalks were thicker, and the harvest was heavier. No extra work, no purchased fertilizer, just better results in some fields than others. The difference floated on the water surface. A tiny fern smaller than your smallest fingernail, bright green and feathery, spreading across the flooded paddies like a living carpet. The farmers called it Bao Hoa Dao, the water fern flower. Their grandparents had grown it, and their great-grandparents before them. Nobody remembered when it started. The knowledge simply existed, passed down through demonstration rather than textbooks. When the fern covered the water, the rice thrived. When the fern disappeared, yields dropped. Generations of observation confirmed what no scientist had yet measured. What those farmers understood through practice, Western science did not discover until 1977. A researcher named Watanabe published findings in the journal Nature that shocked the agricultural world. This tiny floating fern was doing something that should have been impossible. It was pulling nitrogen directly from the air and converting it into fertilizer, not through its own biology, through a hidden partner living inside every single leaf. Crack open an Azolla frond under a microscope, and you find cavities filled with blue-green bacteria called Anabaena. This bacterium does something almost no other organism can do. It captures nitrogen gas from the atmosphere and transforms it into ammonia, plant food created from thin air. The fern provides shelter and sugars. The bacteria provides nitrogen, a partnership millions of years old perfected long before humans planted the first crop. Watanabe measured the output. 100 to 150 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare per year, created for free, from air and sunlight and water. Compare that to a bag of synthetic fertilizer. Farmers pay hundreds of dollars per ton for nitrogen that this fern manufactures automatically, every hour of every day, without equipment, without fossil fuels, without any input except water and light. Then NASA got interested. When you design food systems for a space station, every gram matters. Every watt of electricity, every liter of water, every minute of astronaut labor. NASA needed plants that grew fast in small spaces with minimal inputs. They tested lettuce, soybeans, wheat, potatoes, and dozens of other candidates. Aquatic plants kept outperforming everything else. The Controlled Ecological Life Support System Research Program studied plants that could recycle nutrients, purify water, and produce food simultaneously. Azolla checked every box: fast growth, high protein content, nitrogen fixation that reduced fertilizer requirements to zero. Raymond Wheeler at Kennedy Space Center documented these findings in a 2017 review published in Open Agriculture. The same fern Vietnamese grandmothers grew in rice paddies was now being studied for Mars missions. Here is where the numbers stop making sense until you see them yourself. Under optimal conditions, Azolla doubles its biomass every 2 to 3 days. Lumpkin and Plucknett documented this in Economic Botany in 1980. Wagner confirmed it in the Botanical Review in 1997. In tropical temperatures between 25 and 30 degrees Celsius, you can watch the doubling happen in real time. On day 1, a thin scattering of green fronds. On day 3, a carpet so thick you cannot see the water beneath. On day 5, you harvest half, and by day 8, the container looks exactly as full as before. Compare this to anything else you might grow. Corn needs 90 days minimum to harvest. Soybeans need 80 days. Alfalfa needs 60 days for the first cutting. This fern doubles before most people remember to water their houseplants. 8 to 10 tons of dry matter per hectare per year, according to Carey and Wirtz in Soil Biology and Biochemistry in 1984. Now, let me show you the nutritional profile that makes commercial feed companies nervous. Van Hove and Lejeune published a comprehensive analysis in Systematics and Geography of Plants in 2002. Crude protein content ranges from 19 to 30% dry weight. Every essential amino acid is present. Lysine content is comparable to soybeans. Beta-carotene and vitamin A precursors are present throughout. Commercial fish feed typically contains 28 to 32% protein. Azolla sits right in that range, produced for essentially nothing. Das and colleagues published findings in aquaculture reports in 2018 that confirmed what fish farmers in Asia already knew. Azolla meal can replace 20 to 40% of commercial fish feed with no reduction in fish growth rates. In some trials, fish grew faster on the Azolla diet. Gangadhar documented similar results with carp in Aquaculture Journal in 2017. Tilapia farmers across Southeast Asia have cut feed costs in half using this one plant. So why have you never heard of this? Walk into any feed store in America, ask about Azolla, watch the blank stares. This is the fern NASA studied for space stations. The fern Vietnamese farmers have grown for 1,000 years, and the fern peer-reviewed research validates repeatedly, yet it remains invisible to Western agriculture. 3 reasons explain the gap. First, you cannot patent a fern. No seed company profits from a plant that reproduces by splitting in half. Azolla grows vegetatively. Break a piece off and both pieces keep growing. No annual seed purchases, no licensing fees, no intellectual property to protect. Every dollar you save growing your own feed is a dollar that feed companies do not earn. Second, the fertilizer industry has no interest in promoting a plant that manufactures its own nitrogen. Synthetic nitrogen fertilizer is a multi-billion-dollar global market. A fern that pulls nitrogen from the air threatens that entire business model. Nobody runs advertisements for free atmospheric nitrogen. Third, the knowledge stayed siloed. Aquaculture researchers published in aquaculture journals. Rice farming research stayed in agricultural journals. The connection between floating ferns and fish feed existed in the scientific literature, but it never reached backyard fish keepers. Until now. In Vietnam, this knowledge never disappeared. Farmers in the Mekong Delta still grow Azolla between rice crops. In the Philippines, cultivation dates back to the Spanish colonial period. In China, systematic Azolla farming is documented since the Song dynasty, over 1,000 years ago. Millions of farmers across Asia use this plant daily. The West simply never paid attention. Now, I promised you the 5-minute setup. Here is exactly how to turn any container into a free fish feed free. Start with the container itself. You need something that holds water. That is the only requirement. A 27-gallon storage tub from any hardware store costs between $8 and $15. A plastic kiddie pool works for larger production. Even a glass baking dish on a windowsill produces enough for demonstration. Choose shallow and wide over deep and narrow. Azolla only grows on the surface. 3 to 4 inches of water depth is plenty. More surface area means more growing space. A 50-gallon tub produces meaningful feed quantities. Multiple tubs scale production to match any fish population. Container. For water, you have several options. Dechlorinated tap water works fine. Let it sit in an open container for 24 hours and the chlorine evaporates naturally. Or add water conditioner from any aquarium store for instant results. Rainwater is even better, slightly acidic and mineral-rich. Pond water is ideal if you have access. It contains the trace nutrients Azolla needs to thrive. Water. Here is the critical insight most people miss. Azolla fixes its own nitrogen. It pulls nitrogen from the air through Anabaena bacteria in every leaf. But it still needs phosphorus and trace minerals from somewhere. Fish tank water is perfect. The waste from your fish contains exactly what Azolla requires. This creates a beautiful loop. Fish waste feeds the fern. The fern feeds the fish. Nothing purchased. Nothing wasted. Nitrogen. If you do not have fish tank water yet, add a small handful of pond mud to your container. The decomposing organic matter releases phosphorus slowly. Or use diluted organic fertilizer at 1/4 the strength recommended on the label. Even a few drops of aquarium plant food weekly provides enough nutrition. Once the cycle starts, the system becomes self-sustaining. Cycle. For light and location, Azolla tolerates a wide range of conditions. 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight is optimal. Bright indirect light works too. In hot climates, provide afternoon shade. Water temperature above 35 degrees Celsius slows growth significantly. Indoor growing is possible with standard grow lights. A sunny window produces enough light for a small container. Light. Now source your starter culture. Online suppliers ship live Azolla anywhere in the country. Aquarium stores sometimes carry it. Fish farms often have excess they will share or sell cheaply. Check local ponds and slow-moving streams. In many regions, Azolla grows wild, waiting to be collected. 1 handful is enough to start production. Starter. Float your starter on the water surface. Cover about 20 to 30% of the surface area. Do not start with more. Azolla needs room to spread. Too thick a starting layer and the plants underneath die from lack of light. Give it space and watch what happens. Surface. For the first week, leave it alone. Observe. By day 3, you will notice the coverage has expanded. By day 5, the green carpet is noticeably thicker. By day 7 to 10, the surface is full enough to harvest. Skim off 50% with a small net or kitchen strainer. Leave the rest to regenerate. 48 to 72 hours later, harvest again. The cycle continues indefinitely. One critical warning before we go further: never release Azolla into natural waterways. In some regions, it becomes invasive and outcompetes native plants. Compost any excess. Feed it to chickens or livestock. Dry it for storage, but keep it contained. Responsible cultivation protects local ecosystems. Now let us connect your growing operation to your fish. Tilapia consume fresh Azolla eagerly. So do carp, catfish, and most omnivorous fish species. Fresh Azolla floats on the water surface. Fish eat from above naturally. No special feeders required. Start with a small amount, maybe 10 to 20% of their normal feed quantity. Watch how quickly they consume it. Gradually increase the proportion as they acclimate to the new food source. Some fish take to it immediately. Others need a few days to recognize it as food. Mixing fresh Azolla with a small amount of their regular feed helps during the transition. Within 2 weeks, most fish eat Azolla preferentially. They swim to the surface when they see the green arriving. For long-term storage, dry your harvest. Spread thin on screens in direct sunlight. 2 to 3 days produces crispy dried Azolla that stores for months. Alternatively, use your oven at the lowest setting with the door cracked open. Check frequently to prevent burning. Once fully dried, store in airtight containers away from light. 6 months shelf life or longer. Grind dried Azolla to powder for easier mixing. Combine with rice bran or wheat bran for a balanced feed formula. Many fish farmers use a ratio of 40% Azolla to 60% grain byproducts. The protein from the fern complements the carbohydrates from the grain. A complete diet produced almost entirely from waste products and atmospheric nitrogen. Calculate the economics yourself. Commercial fish feed costs 50 cents to $1 per kilogram. Minimum. Prices rose again this year and show no signs of dropping. Homegrown Azolla costs essentially nothing after the initial culture. Even replacing 30% of purchased feed creates significant annual savings. Replace 50% and feed costs nearly disappear. The storage tub pays for itself within weeks. Now picture yourself 6 months from now. A row of storage tubs along a fence line, each one producing its weight in fish feed every week. Tilapia growing fat in your backyard pond, fed almost entirely on fern you grew yourself. No more trips to the feed store. No more watching prices climb every season. No more dependence on supply chains that can break at any moment. This is what food independence actually looks like, not vast acreage and expensive equipment. A storage tub, some water, and a handful of floating fern that doubles faster than you can harvest it. The Vietnamese farmer knew. NASA scientists confirmed it. The research has been published for decades. Now you know too. The fern is waiting. Your fish are hungry. The only question is whether you will set up your first container this week or keep paying someone else to feed your fish for you. Subscribe and watch the next video to discover more.